Today's Wednesday, the 22nd of April, and I'm doing chapter 17 of Touching Spirit Bear. Starts on page 140. I kind of can give you like a little bit of foreshadowing. We're now starting on the journey of Cole being taught certain things that he needs to be able to change. Like Edwin and Garvey are now going to be giving him some tools in his toolkit. I mean, they've been doing this all along, but like with the analogies of like the cake ingredients, or the analogy of the world is a hot dog, or life is like how you prepare a hot dog, or friendship is like a song. They've been giving him like knowledge about how to deal with these things, but now they're going to give him some actual tools, because there's one thing that Cole still needs to conquer. And I'm not talking about his relationship with Dad or with Peter, fixing the thing with Peter, but it's something that's internal inside of himself. So I'm going to stop and ask you, like, what's the one thing that you think still happens within Cole that he probably needs to deal with? And Edwin and Garvey are going to start giving him the tools to be able to do that. Before they went to sleep, Edwin showed Cole how to suspend the coolers of fresh food from the high branches in case bears visited during the night. "Tomorrow night, we'll dance," he said. "What do you mean, dance?" Cole said. "We'll build a fire and dance our feelings." Clue number one. Edwin offered no more explanation, so Cole didn't ask. But long after Edwin and Garvey fell asleep, Cole lay awake in his tent listening to their deep, regular breathing. The hard ground made his hip and arm ache. Remember, he's had those pretty serious injuries. Outside, the wind strained through the tree tops, and deep in the trees a branch broke. Memory of the spirit bear flashed into Cole's mind. Was the bear still out there? And was it angry? Or was it only curious? Cole tried to fall asleep, but troubled thoughts hounded him. What was his mother doing right now? Was she thinking about him too? And what about his father? Did he care about anything other than himself? Cole thought about his own troubles with the law and about all the troubles at his school. He thought about Edwin and Garvey and, yes, Peter. He truly did hope Peter would be okay. As he tossed and turned, Cole found himself growing angry again. He tried to fight back the familiar rage of his memory of touching the spirit bear, but nothing seemed to ward off the bitterness and frustration that flooded his mind. Edwin had been right when he said that anger was never forgotten. What do you think is causing Cole to be angry? Like, he tried to use the spirit bear, the memory of the spirit bear, touching it as a way to calm himself down, but it's not working. What do you think the trigger is? Number one, what do you think the trigger is that's making Cole angry, and why? Page 141, paragraph 3. Cole thought about his past and also about his future. Tomorrow he would begin building a shelter under the watchful eyes of Edwin and Garvey. Even with his own bum arm, he'd probably do all the work while they sat around on their butts like they had today. And then what? And what would happen when they left? Cole imagined the cold, the rain, carrying water, keeping a fire going, doing schoolwork. Yep, he has to do schoolwork while he's on the islands too. And long, long hours of being alone and bored. That wasn't much to celebrate. Cole's angry thoughts repeated themselves like a stuck record until he finally slipped into a troubled sleep. And almost immediately a hand shook him awake. "Get up and come with me," grunted Edwin. This is where we're getting into the first tool, like the first thing that he's going to do. "What time is it?" Cole grumbled, his head numb with fatigue. "Where are we going?" "Hurry," Edwin ordered. "It's almost morning." Cole clawed his way out of his sleeping bag and fumbled into his shirt and pants. The icy air made his clothes stiff and he shivered. He heard Garvey still snoring loudly as he crawled into the brisk air. The faint glow of dawn showed over the trees and dimmed the stars as Cole started to pull on his tennis shoes. Edwin stopped him. "Put these on." he said, holding out a pair of knee-high rubber boots. Tennis shoes aren't much good up here except around camp. Cole was still pulling on the second rubber boot when Edwin headed out. Let's go before the sun comes up, Edwin said, setting off at a brisk pace. He had a small pack slung over his shoulder. What's the big deal? Asked Cole. His stiff joints ached as he hobbled up to catch up. Morning shouldn't be wasted. By the time they reached the stream, Edwin breathed heavily. His pot belly definitely wasn't from too much hiking. Without stopping, he waded into the water and used the edge of the stream as a pathway to avoid the heavy underbrush. He's teaching Cole things about the island, too, as he goes. He picked his footing deliberately along the slippery bottom, working his way upstream. Cole followed, splashing along stiffly in the gathering daylight. You tossed and turned half the night, Edwin said. Yeah, I couldn't sleep. Any reason? Cole didn't answer right away. Just thinking, he said. When Edwin didn't reply, he added, My mind gets to thinking and won't quit, like it's chewing on tough meat. It won't swallow a thought and it won't spit it out. It just keeps chewing it over and over. So Cole's talking about getting a thought stuck in his head and how it won't leave his head and he can't let it go and he can't let it go and he can't let it go. So I guess my question number 2 is more like a text-to-self connection. Is there anything that you get stuck in your head that you don't let go? Stresses or worries or thoughts? And the thinking makes you mad, right? Cole nodded. It's like my mind wants to be mad at something and it won't quit. Even now, I'm mad. Edwin stopped beside a long, rocky slope that rose several hundred feet right above the shallow valley. On their left, the stream flattened out into a large, calm, crystal-clear pond. Upstream, about 100 yards, the stream gushed through a rock gorge, calming as it flowed into a still pool. We're going swimming, said Edwin, dropping his pack to the ground. He slipped off his jacket and shirt. Are you nuts? Exclaimed Cole. It's freezing. Trust me, said Edwin. To do what? Kill ourselves? Edwin kept stripping. Half is being trusted is to trust. He reached down and picked up a thin stick. Cole eyed the stick warily as Edwin waded into the clear pond. Hesitantly, he removed his clothes, glancing at Edwin, who had already swum over, seated himself chest deep on a rock ledge across the pond. Edwin's eyes were closed, and he held a small stick against his shoulder patiently. He breathed deliberately, as if unaware of the cold. Slowly, Cole, wading in, gasping as the icy water rose around his chest, he held his breath as he pushed off the bottom and swam the last 20 feet. Cripes, it's cold! He exclaimed as he pulled himself up beside Edwin on the underwater rocks. Edwin remained still, eyes closed. Cole hugged his arms to his chest, but he couldn't stop his teeth from chattering. The water nearly covered his shoulders. He felt stupid and vulnerable. What was he doing millions of miles from nowhere, sitting in a freezing pond beside a bizarre Tlingit Indian with a stick? What's the stick for? He asked loudly. Edwin opened his eyes as if coming out of a sleep. Calmly, he held up the stick. The right end of the stick is your happiness. The left end is your anger, Edwin said, and then he handed the stick to Cole. Break off the left end and get rid of your anger. Shivering, Cole took the stick in his fist and broke off one side. Edwin shook his head. You broke off the left end, but the left end still exists. Go ahead, break it off again. Again, Cole broke the stick, and again Edwin shook his head. Why did you leave the left end of the stick when I asked you to break it off? That's stupid, Cole muttered. The left end will always be there. Edwin nodded. People spend lifetimes breaking their stick to get rid of anger, but anger always remains, and they think they've failed. So if I can't ever get rid of my anger, why even try? Cole said. Edwin reached and took the remaining piece of the stick from Cole's hand, and his fingers toyed with the wood as he looked up at the sunrise that began to glow warmly over the trees. He glanced over his shoulder at the dark storm clouds that hung menacingly on the opposite horizon. He waved his stick. "Is the sky sunny, or is it stormy?" he asked. Cole looked both ways and shrugged. "Depends on which way you look." That's where I'm stopping, but it is question number 3. What is Garvey trying to teach him? And I don't want to go to the stick analogy yet. I think that that's going to be a big topic to talk about. But right now, I'm asking, when Cole looks at the sky, one part of it's sunny and the other part is stormy. And Cole says, well, it depends on which way you look, which one you describe. What is Edwin trying to get Cole to understand? See you at 11.